Dynasty the king.
All season, we as a show have told you, the listener, to stay committed, to pick a direction, and to follow it. And you know what? I have to apologize to you, the listener, because tonight I didn't take my own advice. Dylan, you can relate to this so much. This was the type of Thursday night football game that is borderline unwatchable, even for a fantasy player.
Ugh.
You have Tyson Bagent going up against a Bryce Young, who is, frankly, he's not tall enough to ride the roller coaster. But I had a plan. I already talked about this. I already talked about this in a different Thursday night matchup where I was going up against Josh Allen, and I've talked about hedging my happiness, right? I'm going up against Mike in another league, not the Yacht Club. I play in multiple because I'm tanking so long in the Yacht Club. I need to feel what it's like to compete somewhere, right? So I know that I'm going up against Devontae Foreman, who he gets out of nowhere. I had Justin Fields starting, but then obviously Tyson Bagent comes in, so I have Bagent. I put together a parlay of Devontae Foreman over 70 yards rushing, Devontae Foreman anytime touchdown scorer, and my foolish, dumbass self was like, you know what? I think Bagent will hit the over on passing. I don't want to be too committed to my night going well. Dude, I missed out on 11, like 1,000. It was 10,098 yards. I would have 10x'd my money. So not only did Devontae Foreman, who is like the least valuable player that Mike has on his team going up against me, go off on me, I lost out on a great parlay. And that is just proof that if you try to stay in the middle, it doesn't work out. And so I apologize. Or actually, I don't apologize. I'm being used as a bad example. If you're going to make a happiness hedge parlay, which we will, I should do that the rest
Happiness
of
hedge.
It's a happiness hedge. If you want the most guaranteed lock in sports gambling, it's whatever is going up against Josh Walsh's fantasy teams that week. It's a guarantee. And whatever's on my team is going to have a bad performance. You know?
Yeah, listen, man. I'm here. I'm here for you. I hear you. I see you. You're valued. Okay? I hear you. But let's rewind. Why you got to go with my man Bryce like that? The short kings deserve some love. You know I'm 5'8". We've been friends for so long. You know a short kings needs some love. How are you going to attack him and say a grown man can't ride a roller coaster? That's just cold.
No, I mean, listen.
He's not Rondale Moore. There I go, attacking another short king. He's a tiny guy.
You're a big hypocrite on here. Here's what you just did. You're like, how can you go after short people? I am 5'8". I'm not as short as Rondale Moore. That guy's like, he's short. It's like,
he's
dude,
tiny.
You literally just stood on his shoulders.
I did.
No, this game was a field goal fest. The only touchdown that was interesting, in my opinion, was the punt return touchdown. Obviously, Devontae Foreman finding the end zone again is great, but Khalil Herbert was supposed to come back, so I don't know if you can trust that long term. The only player I want to ask about and spend time talking about from this matchup is DJ Moore. Dylan, I had to look this up. It feels like DJ Moore has been in the league for so long. I thought this guy would be 29, going on 30. He's 26 years old. He's wide receiver 21 in keep trade cut. He's currently, and this is before week 10 has concluded, going into this game, he's the wide receiver 7 on the year. What the heck do you do with DJ Moore? Because he doesn't feel young. He's been in the league 6 years. When Justin Fields was healthy, it seemed like they were starting to establish a connection. But I've got questions about Fields' future. I've got questions about the future of the Bears as an offense. Is there a rookie QB coming in? DJ Moore feels like that definition of like always has the potential to be good, but how long do you wait for that potential to arrive? I think it could still happen for the rest of the year. He's a buy low candidate for me, but am I holding on to hope that's long since passed?
I don't know, man. I like to think DJ Moore is like the next Amari Cooper, right? Amari Cooper was another one of those wide receivers where like, God,
right,
he's got to be like 30, right? He's still only 29, but he came into the league so early, like DJ Moore. It's like these guys have been in the league forever. So we've seen Amari Cooper produce also, right? He produced in Oakland, then went to Cowboys, obviously produced there, and now he's in Cleveland and he's producing there, right? And so I'd like to think that's DJ Moore, but I'm not as optimistic, unfortunately. I don't know what to do with him. I think if you can get a first for DJ Moore, I'm moving off of him. If you can get a 24 first for DJ Moore, I'd rather roll the dice and try to go get one of the wide receivers in this class that we've talked about. I don't know. What is the upside? What is the best case scenario for him?
Well, I mean, he's wide receiver 7 right now. And obviously a lot of that came on the other Thursday night game that the Bears were involved in against the Commanders, where he had 3 touchdowns, 230 yards. Great. But he's been consistently like 50 yards, 5 catches, had 5 for 58 tonight in the games he's not getting into the end zone. And I think if Justin Fields comes back there's some upside there that he can maintain and continue to win weeks down the stretch. But here's more what I wanted to point out. On Keep Trade Cut, players ranked ahead of him: Drake London, Zay Flowers, Cooper Kupp. Give me DJ Moore, the wide receiver 7 on the year, above all those guys, rest of season and for the next 3 years, at least where I'm coming from. DJ Moore will be 29 in 3 years.
I think rest of season is a different story.
Even as I say that, we could.
I would say rest. I agree with you on rest of season. It's not the next 3 years is where I disagree with you on.
I mean, Drake London, Arthur Smith is the enemy of all fantasy managers in the world right now. So that you're going to eventually go to DJ Moore's side. I'm simply saying he's kind of like this forgotten gem because he's never been a top 10 guy and he's always just been good. We forget. He's like him and Terry McLaurin, like they go golfing together. They hang out and it's like, we're really good and underappreciated.
Sadly that's true. I think DJ Moore, I would say probably has proven to have more upside than Terry McLaurin. McLaurin is your career wide receiver 2, which is great. But I just don't think DJ Moore does have wide receiver 1 potential. So does Terry. But I don't know. You're right. Those two are very similar. I think I would rather have DJ Moore in that case. But DJ Moore is tricky. So you're not moving off of him for a 24 first.
No, I mean, it really depends on that 24 first. A late 24 first. My question is probably why. To me, he's just a buy low. DJ Moore is a buy low candidate right now. He's outproduced.
If you're a contender,
but that's the thing. But I think you can rebuild with him as well. Just know that he'll be on the, in 3 years, he'll be on the older side. But I think Amari Cooper's a great career arc, not in terms of exact production, but Amari Cooper kind of became a fantasy superstar again when he was traded to Dallas. And I think that's what you're kind of seeing with DJ Moore with the Bears, because Amari Cooper had exciting early years with the Raiders, but he never seemed to put it all together. The touchdowns, at least I thought, were going to be there this year. With Bagent there, I don't think it's going to be there. Bagent only has eyes for Cole Kmet in the red zone, and he didn't even find him tonight. So I'm excited about DJ Moore. He was a my guy going into this year, but even with how well he's performed through half the season, he still feels like, DJ Moore. And for him to be wide receiver 21 on Keep Trade Cut, I think he's a buy low, but it's one of those things where it's like going to Costco and buying the big Kirkland bag. Like, the quality's good, but because it's Kirkland, it's like, I'm buying this for value. Okay. It's not because I like it. So, any final thoughts before we move off of what was a horrible Thursday night football game that I wish I could forget, especially since my parlay did not hit?
No. I mean, the one thing I will say, and this is a word to the wise, right? Just, if you have Bryce Young, don't sell him right now. Do not sell him right now. I'm not saying he's going to turn into a great quarterback, but you're just selling someone whose value has the opportunity to do nothing but go up. Hold Bryce Young, go buy Cole Kmet. If you can get Cole Kmet, go buy Cole Kmet. Don't trade him away. The best part of the broadcast in game, I don't know if you saw it, was the graphic where they put up Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and I think there was one other, I'm trying to remember. And it showed their career through 9 games. And or it may have been the first 8. Joe Burrow was 1-5-1. Trevor Lawrence was 1-7. Joe Burrow was 2-6. It was this career arc of hey, these guys started incredibly slow as well. And it's hard to remember that when the Carolina Panthers are stinking as much as they are, because that was frankly hard to watch. Bad.
So listen, figuring out
DJ
that's all. We can move
value,
on. Yeah, no, exactly. He's a buy low candidate, but Dylan and I, we've been having FOMO, both of us embracing tanking in the Yacht Club. So we've been thinking, how can we play consultant the rest of the season? We've got some great trade targets coming up for you right after these messages. Dylan, it was interesting. I was chatting with Mike today about kind of the rules, and we have some unique tanking rules in the Yacht Club because we don't want teams to be able to hide great players on their bench and in turn increase the value of their pick by just tanking wins and losses. So we changed to a point system. But I was pointing out to Mike today, I was like, well, there's 2 sides to that coin, because what if you do score a good amount of points, but for whatever reason you had terrible matchup luck? Because that has been what has happened to your team. And so I'm impressed with you committing to a direction and realizing, hey, the games didn't go your way, even though the points at times very much did. And so you've joined me in the tanking boat. And it hit me this
sad
week,
boat.
man.
It's a sad boat.
It's a sad boat. And you're like, oh, the future is bright. Look at us. But it's like, yeah, dude, call me in 2025. Like, what are we doing?
Seriously.
And so we had some serious FOMO. And I was trying to think of like, man, I always want listeners to be in the boat with us. And unfortunately, the Value King is still not here because he is busy building a championship program as an athletic director at the college he works at. So he had some games he had to attend to tonight. Which
he scoffs at us from his yacht of a team. He's on a yacht. We're over here in our rafts.
He's supposed to be the one telling us like, hey, I'm in the thick of it. I'm chasing the championship. I'm going to be tied for the 1 seed. Like, nope. He's just, you know what it is? I think he's scared to come on the show and tilt. I think he's scared to come on the show and admit things are going according to plan. We'll needle him and then he'll make a foolish trade. I think that's what it is. He's going. Part of Davis winning it all this season is avoiding conversation about his team. Good for him. But I wanted to identify what is a league-winning trade. Pretending you and I aren't in this 2025, in this 2026 rebuilding boat, I want to be in the thick of it. And if I was in the thick of it, who is a player at every single price point? Because we want to ball on a budget here, right? We don't want to. If we had 14 first-round picks and you're competing for a championship, you're playing on easy mode. If you only had your normal allotment of picks, who's a player at a first, a second, and even a third-round pick value? Coming from the Yacht Club. So obviously every league's economy is a little different. First might be worth more in your league or less in your league that you can go attain that's going to take it home for you down the stretch. And so Dylan, I want to start with you. Who at a 2024 first, mid to late first, imagine you're trading your own and imagine for whatever reason, like I said, you're competing, right? There's a universe out there in the multiverse where you're still in it. Yeah, totally. So who do you think is worth a first that can help players go the distance, that can help players go on that magic run? I'm thinking of like Jerick McKinnon last year, David Montgomery 2 and 3 years prior, I should say, because he did it kind of back-to-back years. Even Najee Harris late last year. Yeah,
so I mean, I'm typically not a fan of buying running backs, just to preface. I really not, especially spending a first on running backs. But in this economy, there's very, very few running backs that could be league winners that aren't already cemented on a team that you're not getting for at least a first, right?
Yeah.
So a back that and also to preface, when I think of going for a championship and selling picks to go win a championship, I don't think you should do it at the detriment of your team. I would not. I know people would probably do it, and you probably would have to pay a first to get Derrick Henry, but I would not go buy Derrick Henry for a first, because to me, like, I'd like to see at least the player that I'm trying to get outlast at least the value of that pick, right? Like Derrick Henry could very much, we've talked about this off air, right? He could be gone.
Yeah.
Next year.
It feels like you're for sure buying. Yeah, it feels like at that point you're buying the hot potato going off no matter what. So you're talking about a player that has the potential to still have long-term value, even though, and I want to say this as well, there is no trade we're going to talk about that doesn't involve risk, because no risk, no biscuit. There, like if it's if you can go trade a 24 first to the Bijan owner because they're tilting, congratulations, you have a stupid league mate, and take advantage of that.
You need to call the Yacht Club and get some counseling for your league, because that is a garbage league. The guy that I'm going to bring up for that too harsh?
It's a garbage league. Well, no, Davis just traded away Bijan for like Alvin Kamara plus. Like,
that's fair.
Those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. But continue.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry, guys, if I offended you in your leagues. The player that I'm going to go try and get for a first is Mr. Javonte Williams. We saw Javonte Williams as right before the Broncos went into their bye week. We saw him trying to kind of get an uptick in carries. In week 7, we saw him go for 15 carries. In week 8, right before their bye week, he went for 27 carries and was the RB9 on that week. So, I mean, he had 11 points a week prior. He had 17 points in week 8 right before the bye. So you're seeing they're getting him warmed up in this offense, and he's healing, and he's only going to get healthier. And so for me, I want to go and try and get a running back that I think can be, like we talked about, that David Montgomery, that Jerick McKinnon run. And I don't see Sean Payton going away from this. If he's going to utilize and give him 27 carries, we know Javonte Williams, and I understand he went through that injury, and everyone wants to put the label of J.K. Dobbins on him because they had the same injury. We've seen Javonte Williams in the open. He doesn't have that hitch that J.K. Dobbins had, right? So, to me,
I mean, he healed so much faster. He got back. We compared the injuries, and then
Yeah.
Javonte just said, no, but I heal way quicker. It may have been the same injury, but complete opposite responses because Javonte's back and he's producing and handling a big workload. Like,
and that's why you can't compare injuries with players. Like the body's so different, right? And people heal differently, rehab differently, whatever. But I mean, we're talking about Javonte Williams, who's only 23 years old. He is only 23 years old. He came in so young.
Yeah.
And he's RB15 right now in KTC. So I'm pretty confident that if you sent out a late 24 first, you could get a Javonte Williams. And like I said, I'm not typically high on buying running backs, but when you can get someone that's 23 years old, has a potential to help you win a championship this year and next year, and even the year after, like he's 23. So we know if he can get things going, stay healthy, right? We're not going to anticipate injury, we're not going to forecast injury, but we can anticipate at sometimes, so have a backup plan. But I think Javonte Williams to me is an incredible buy right now. How do you feel about this? Do you agree with me? Am I crazy?
I do. The only question I have is, did you check with the Javonte owner in our league to see if you could get that pulled off? I know they're competing as well, but I did that for all of my, I did the market research. I was like, hey, hypothetically speaking, like, are you looking for show research right now? I'm like, yes. Okay. You're getting to chase a championship. I'm not. Like,
good for you. You did your homework. I didn't do it, but I have a 24 first. I'm rebuilding, so I wouldn't go and spend obviously for a running back.
Right.
But if you're contending,
right. But
yes.
even knowing, but the scarcity in our league, I think you could pull that off. Just depending on where that in a vacuum, I think you can get that trade done. The thing I love about it, keep trade cut. He's the running back 15. If he finishes the season averaging 15, touches a game, I highly doubt he stays there just based on his youth and production. And it feels like all the other backs from his generation, so to speak. I mean, Cam Akers just tore his Achilles again. J.K. Dobbins already out for the season with the torn Achilles. Najee's been underperforming and is a little bit older. It's like, okay, Javonte's like, he could easily slip into the top 6 running backs by the end of the year, easily. My question, though, and my caution, he had 27 carries, and I think he had a couple receptions, 4 receptions, like 31 total touches. Mm-hmm. That was against the Chiefs during the flu game when, weirdly enough, Denver was playing with a lead. I'm concerned about his value because Jaleel McLaughlin is a good pass catching back. Mm-hmm. If Denver is playing catch up, that's where I think it goes wrong, because I don't know that they would use Javonte in the 2-minute drill, because Sean Payton's one of those guys where it's like, it's all about packages, and Jaleel McLaughlin has been a good 2-minute back. So that's my one caution. But do you know the schedule for Denver kind of as it ends the year?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about Houston, Chargers, Detroit, New England.
Okay. So
they've got a little bit of rough patch. They play Minnesota and then Cleveland. We know Cleveland's defense is stout. So I mean,
but I think they'll be chasing against Detroit and Cleveland. Those other games, Chargers, that's a divisional game that could go either way. So he'll be involved. And I think they could beat the Patriots.
I think so too.
Very easily.
I think you're right. I think, yes, there's a concern, but I mean, if you're giving him he's only had less than 10 carries in one game. And 10 carries he had 2 carries in one game.
And he's getting healthier. Yeah.
And he's getting healthier.
And they won.
And they're winning games. So, and if he's getting 4, 5 passes.
They're winning game with him. Let's not get crazy. Denver's not going crazy with them.
My God. So I actually, hot take, side note, I think Denver actually comes out of this bye, and they haven't been playing bad football. I understand it was a flu game, whatever. I think Denver gets better personally. I think they do. I'm not saying they're going to go make a Super Bowl run.
No. Well, I know, but losing 20-70 is going to get better from there because that's historically bad. So, no,
they're never going to outlive that.
No, they're certainly not. My player, also a running back, because I think league-winning players, at the end of the day, it's running backs because people don't move off of high-end, high-producing wide receivers for cheap or easy, and so it's all about playing that running back game. Listen, it's Tony Pollard. I hate to be such a pro-Cowboy show, but the reality is Tony Pollard has been underperforming for fantasy this season, and we've talked about it at length. He didn't need Zeke to go away. He's not a first and second down back. He's a third down back and a change of pace back, and he's electric on limited carries. But the reality is, I think Dak has been overperforming the last couple games. And the next couple games, specifically the Giants with Danny DeVito starting, the New York Jets, and then not the New York Giants. It's the Giants, then Carolina, then Washington, and then Seattle. All 4 of those games, I know Seattle's a very good team. I think that one will be competitive. But those aren't the type of games where Dak is having to drop back and throw 40 passes. Those are the types of games where the Dallas defense can come in, specifically against the Giants and Carolina, put the game away, and then Tony Pollard is punching it into the end zone from a short field because Tony Pollard only has 2 touchdowns on the year. He's still the RB21 on the season. In Keep Trade Cut, I didn't know he was this high. He is the running back 13. Oh, here's what I love about a championship run with Pollard. Bad. I think he's already through his bye. I think he can help you, punch your ticket to playoffs. The schedule gets a little bit more difficult at times, but in shootouts against Miami and Buffalo to kind of end the season, I think there's a chance where if he's pass catching again, he could be electric. I think he's finally fallen enough in value where you can go acquire him because I checked with the Pollard owner. He would sell him for a single 24 first. I'm not going to do it because once again, you and I are in the sad boat of FOMO, but I think that's someone you should look to go trade for because also, and this is to me the most important point, I stole this from a league mate. I was talking about dealing Pollard in another league. He goes, I kind of think that if Tony Pollard doesn't re-sign with the Cowboys next year because he's on the franchise tag, and that's part of what's baked into his discounted price. If Tony Pollard had a long-term contract right now, you probably wouldn't have the ability for a single first to go get him. I think he could reunite with Kellen Moore in the Chargers, and the Chargers let Eckler walk, in which case he would be used very similarly because Eckler is the pass-catching running back again. He's been getting a lot more receptions and targets. I think that there could be sneaky upside to his long-term value, but definitely down the stretch, I think these next couple games, specifically the next 3, are going to be huge for Pollard, specifically finding the end zone.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you here. I'm a Cowboys fan, right? I love me some Tony Pollard. I actually wasn't super excited for him this year either. I'm kind of a Debbie Downer when it comes to Tony Pollard. I just don't see it. I think he hasn't proven that he can handle the workload. Sure, I'm not saying he's not going to have some boom games going through the stretch. I definitely think he will. Spending a 24 first to me, going back to my philosophy, I don't see his value outlasting that 24 first draft pick. Like this offseason, sure, he can go to the Chargers and he'll get hype, and you could probably sell him for a first, maybe plus off of the hype if he goes to the Chargers. But I'm not banking on that. I'm not going to bank on hope. And if you're giving someone a 24 first for Pollard, you're bailing them out. At least in my opinion, I wouldn't go.
And this is why. No,
and him being RB13 is asinine. Asinine. I do not understand
KTC?
That.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
I didn't either. But here's what I'll say. That's the reason why, to me, it's a good trade. You have to be an early adopter. And if you believe that there's a depreciation in a player's value, I think a lot of people share your sentiments about his future prospects. And the reality is the guy's only 26. I understand that that's past the age of 25. He may only have 2 good years left. But if you're chasing a championship, you got to remember, Dylan, we can't relate to this. We keep coming back to his long-term value. We're nowhere near the trophy, man. Like we're only thinking about guys who have 5-year windows. Pollard might only be 2 years, but if you can go win a championship by acquiring, because I think he could be in the top 5 running back for the rest of the season in terms of production, on the football field, especially since he's through his bye. It's just looking at the numbers in the math. Like I don't think Dak is going to have a great next 3 games because I think they're not going to need to throw the ball like they have. I think the defense is going to take care of the Giants in Carolina and also mostly Washington because they give up a ton of sacks. So that leaves Tony Pollard. I don't know, man. I don't know. Howell's a dude, but like
the Eagles
they give
had
up a
shootouts
lot of
with
sacks.
them both times.
With the Commanders?
Yeah. Or the first time. Sorry, I don't know if they played
that was
the first time.
No, they did. And it was. I don't know, man. I just think that the Cowboys defense, when they get going with a lead, they put teams away. The defense, weirdly enough, is almost boom bust. But I think Pollard can.
So you have confidence in him you have confidence in him being like a workhorse back then, Tony Pollard.
Not even just a workhorse back. I think the Cowboys offense needs balance. Dak has been overproducing through the air. CeeDee Lamb has been overproducing through the air. They need to establish a run game and let the defense win them games and also show teams, hey, we can do both. He only has 400 and something yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns on the season. I believe it's 438. I want to double check that. So it's been way, way behind the normal mean for Pollard. And I think that the Cowboys want to show we have a weapon and we have a run game, especially against teams where they're going to be ahead. So that's why I think he's a league winner. But I think you are trading the future to go get someone like Pollard. His future is super murky. And it could hit. It could be great, his future. Or he could literally this could be the last year of relevance for him. So that's why it's no risk it, no biscuit. I want to go now to second round price point players. And these are actually my favorite, Dylan, because to your point, trading a first, man, if you don't know, if you're kind of on the bubble, you probably shouldn't do it. this is where the money is made, because you can maybe go win a championship or go on a Cinderella playoff run, but also have your future very much intact. So who for you, because I have two of them, I was a little greedy.
Oh, wow.
Who for you is a second round pick? Yeah, I know. I couldn't separate. I wanted to do one of each. So I did a wide receiver and a running back. But who is worth a second that may take you all the way to first?
Such a teacher's pet. Yeah, for me, this guy it's insane. He's wide receiver 37 on KTC. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Pause. Why am I a teacher's pet? I'm so confused by that.
I have two.
What was that?
Okay, anyways, Dylan, you can go ahead.
That's literally
Are you mad that I restarted? Oh my Lord. No, that's beef from high school. That's totally Dylan and I would have classes together, and I'm arguing with the teacher, and Dylan's just trying to like crack jokes. Like, this is going back to 5th grade right now. Like,
more like I'm trying to get I'm trying to get home, and you're over here asking questions to be after the bell. Anyways,
I'm trying to learn.
The player that I'm going to pick is wide receiver 37 on KTC. He's 29 years old, and he's extremely underappreciated. And it's a guy we talked about earlier, and it's Amari Cooper. I think with everything going on in Cleveland right now, they're winning games somehow. Somehow they're still winning games. I don't know how, but they're still winning games with Deshaun Watson when he's available, PJ Walker whenever he's available. They're winning games. So I think all of that is a little bit of distraction and taking away from Amari Cooper and his actual value. And we talked about it, like similar to DJ Moore, like we were talking about earlier. Amari Cooper, I mean, he's only 29 years old, and I say only 29 years old. He's only 29 years old for how, like, we feel like he's been in the league for.
He feels like he's 34.
He should be 30. No, yeah, like he feels like he's like 34 years old, or he's like Devontae Adams' age, which I think is like 31. But to me, a guy like Amari Cooper is like so underappreciated, and I really don't know. I say a second because I don't really know what people in your league will value him as, but I imagine that if they're not on a contender's team, that's what's difficult. If they're not on a contender's team, you could probably get him for a second. Or if he's excess on a contender's team, you could probably get him for a second. But he's 29 years old. He's coming off of a game where he caught a lucky touchdown. I get it. But this dude last week went for 5 catches, 139 yards and a touchdown. It was a doink. The touchdown was
but it was targeted to him. It got to him somehow. Listen, so like the end zone target was still there.
Watson, that was just garbage. Anyways, he only had 5 targets, right? But he went for 139 and 1. Week 8, what did he do? He had 11 targets, went 6 for 89. He had the week before he only had 3 points, but then he had 14 points, 3 points, 23 points, 12 points, 5 points. What my point saying is he is like the wide receiver 2. For the rest of his career, I think he will be a wide receiver 2, similar to what Keenan Allen is, except Keenan Allen's a lot more volume based, whereas Kamari throwback. That was a throwback. We know Kamari. Amari Cooper.
That's true, actually.
Amari Cooper is your staple wide receiver 2. So if you can go out and send a second and get an Amari Cooper for a championship run, I think he's the perfect complement to any wide receiver 1 that you have. And if you have solid wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, go spend a second and have Amari Cooper be your wide receiver 3. To me, I'm spending that all day. No, hands down.
I think if you're chasing a championship, you could also get away with a young player who has, I don't know that a Kendre Miller, but let's take a Marvin Mims. Like you and I are both bullish on Marvin Mims' future. We want to see him still work out. You could take Marvin Mims and a third and maybe go get an Amari Cooper to someone who is completely rebuilding. I'm not saying Marvin Mims. Maybe there's a Jay Reed.
But you may have to add on top of a second. Like I said, a second.
No, yeah.
And I think it may be a little more. I wouldn't spend a first on Amari Cooper. That's for sure. But I wouldn't spend 2 seconds. So I think a second and some change would get you an Amari Cooper. But Jaden Reed,
maybe you should be more
third.
Yeah, I'm just saying
maybe I should be more. Hey, teacher, I went and asked someone in our league.
Well, yeah, correct. Maybe you should verify whether or not a second would work as the price
hold
point.
Up, pause.
That was the assignment.
You know what? So we were waiting to get onto the show, right? I'm sitting in the lobby with our producer. We're waiting on Walsh to get on so we can start this show. He says, after us waiting for about 10, 15 minutes, he says,
hold on, guys. I'm printing my notes. my notes.
It's 2023. Who prints their notes, Josh?
Someone who left their iPad at home. Oh, my Lord. I'm sorry that prepared. I have notes.
Yeah, talk about prepared. I left my iPad at home and it's dead.
This is this is, first of all, where did the Qbert voice come from? That's hurtful. That is absolutely disrespectful.
You sound like that. You should ask people.
I do not sound like that. I do not have a nasally tone.
You do not sound like that.
Oh my Lord. Listen, I didn't wake up every morning and practice my R&B voice into the microphone. I'm Dylan Egloff, all right? I got smooth game. I have no idea what's going on in math class, but I'll tell you what, Shardy, I'm in your DMs. I'm wearing Vans with the high socks. Oh my Lord.
So far.
Yeah, we're right back into Bedford Junior High right now. We're just talking smack. It's that point in the season. We're very depressed because our teams are bad. Anyway, the players that I would spend a second on that I did price verify, I got a running back and a wide receiver. Running back, really, really simple. Gus Edwards. Mike already did this trade. Gus Edwards is the running back 10 on the season. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens have the best running attack in the NFL, and the Ravens defense is very good. They play from ahead, and most importantly, Gus Edwards is the goal line back for the Ravens. And the other thing I want to mention, Keaton Mitchell, who I was excited about because I was almost not going to do Gus Edwards, but I wanted to bring it up. He injured his hamstring in practice. We don't know about his availability. He might be questionable. So he probably isn't going to eat further into Gus's touches. Mike already spent a second on him to chase his championship. We already talked about that on the last episode, the window he's going after. You could be getting an RB1 rest of season. I tend to think there's going to be touchdown regression. I mean, the last 2 games, he's had 2 touchdowns and 3 touchdowns. But even still, it wasn't like he wasn't having gash plays. It wasn't like the carries weren't there. So
I think there will be regression, but I mean,
listen, if he averages,
the ball in
this
the red
is a great pick.
It's
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
if he averages 2.5 touchdowns a game the rest of the year based on the last 2 games, yeah, that definitely wins you the league. I mean, for sure. But no, even if you don't get the touchdown every single game, I think he's a good enough running back to maybe give you 80 yards on the ground and a couple catches as well. So the upside is great and the price point is even sweeter. But this is the guy I want to talk about more because he's probably the most polarizing. I don't want to say the most polarizing. He's just been in the news a lot lately because this was a guy that kind of won everyone's over after being really disappointing last season as a young wide receiver. And over the last couple of weeks, he's really broken some hearts. I'm talking about Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is the wide receiver 46 on Keep Trade Cut, right? Gabe Davis. How old do you think Gabe Davis is, by the way?
I'm going to say he's 25.
He's 24, dude.
Oh, wow.
So he's still, I know, he's still really young.
He's been 24 forever. That's weird.
Yes, I know. He was kind of like a breakout candidate last year. He really let people down. And listen, his last 4 games have been atrocious. 1.1 half PPR points, 1.6, 19.2. Oh, he's back. 0. That's
the Gabe Davis story. That is literally the Gabe Davis story.
It is, but I think the owner has that in their mind right now because I did reach out to the Gabe Davis owner and I said, hey, hypothetically speaking, would you take a second for Gabe Davis? I never had to study for a test. How does that make you feel? I never had to study for a single test going throughout high school. That crap was easy. I never struggled.
Well, now you're facing social adversity, so eat that.
I don't care. I have a superiority complex. This doesn't affect me.
That's fair.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sure the audience
Dylan,
knows that.
you know what this is, Dylan? Misery loves company. You and I are both so irrelevant in Yacht Club right now. We're just we're just fighting.
I just hope there's people out there that can empathize with us and just laugh at your pain. Laugh at my pain. That is a Kevin Hart. It's real. Laugh at my pain.
Oh, dude. I liked early Kevin. I like Kevin Hart in general, but early Kevin Hart was fantastic.
Funny guy.
Yeah, no. Anyway, I digress. Gabe Davis's his first 5 games started off the season like we expected, 4.2. Then it was 18.2 half PPR points, 9.8, 13.6, and then 21. Here's the reality. He's the wide receiver 30 on the season so far. He just had, I believe, what are the worst last couple, that's the worst stretch he's going to have, referring to the 1.1, the 1.6, the 19, and then the goose egg. The rest of the season, Buffalo has got some big games left. The only thing I don't love is that he has a bye week, but he has to play Dallas again, okay? They have to play Miami again. Buffalo has some shootouts they're going to be in, and they need Gabe Davis to go off. I know Dalton Cade is resurgent, but if you can get a 24-year-old wide receiver connected to Josh Allen long-term with the chance to be the wide receiver 2 for years to come, let me take that risk every time. And most dynasty links, you have multiple flexes. your team and your roster is bigger. So what? Would you rather have like 6 to 7 points a week every single week with an AJ Dillon in your flex? No, throw Gabe Dillon in there, or Gabe Dillon, Gabe Davis in there. They've both been equally disappointing, AJ Dillon and Gabe Davis. But throw Gabe Davis in there. Let him win you a couple weeks down the stretch. I think that there's going to be some game scripts where Gabe Davis figures it out and he wins your championship.
My biggest argument against, again, we're disagreeing. This is great. My biggest argument against that is I would not spend a second on Gabe Davis's volatility. The reason why is a guy named Dalton Kincaid. And we've seen Dalton Kincaid come on the last couple of weeks, and that's part of why we've seen Gabe Davis fade into, like, Gabe Davis is good for like 2 or 3 probably boom games for the rest of the season, right? And they're going to be boom games, right? But you're talking about the volatility. Sure, do you want 6 points a week from? Well, you're not even getting that from AJ Dillon. Let's say like who else is giving you 6 points? That's like even Khalil Shakir or Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed has been giving you like 5 to 6 points a week.
Oh, I'd much rather
go buy Jaden Reed for a second than Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis,
for a second?
I'd much rather take. Yes.
So you're admitting you like Jordan Love better than Josh Allen, right?
Oh, no, it has nothing to do with the quarterbacks. I understand he's attached to Josh Allen. Josh Allen has found Stephon Diggs, who's his guy, and Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid has been more of a factor. That is the biggest thing. And the wide receiver 3 in that offense has been irrelevant. Always irrelevant. The third option.
That is actually interesting. Is the emergence of Dalton Kincaid why the last 4 games for Gabe Davis really bad? That's a good argument to make. But they both ate when Gabe Davis had the 19.2. So Stephon Diggs was the odd man out. I simply think I think Buffalo throws the ball enough where I'll embrace the volatility. And you're always looking for a guy that has youth and can have long-term value. I think Gabe Davis will be he reminds me a lot of Vincent Jackson.
For 3 years, we've been hoping he was the number 2, though. 3 years we've been hoping, please, Gabe Davis be the number 2.
I think he'll finish the season as that when it's all said and done. I just don't think there will be that as large of a gap between him and a Kincaid as you would want to be in a distinguished.
You've seen Shakir come on a little bit too. Shakir's come on a little bit, so they're spreading the ball around. I don't know. I personally would not go spend a second on Gabe Davis, but more power to you. He's young, so I understand justifying it. I don't know if that's going to be a long-term thing.
Well, I'm willing to take the risk, and I think people should as well. But getting down to the penny pinching, Dylan, who for you that is completely unverified that they're worth a third? They might be worth a fourth. We have no idea because you didn't, with the whole nerd out on it. But who would you? Anything I do now? Well,
Yeah. You should ask your wife. Say, hey, do I sound like this on the podcast?
No, I know I don't sound like that. I don't remotely sound like that. I'm gonna start talking like this. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Devi. I watch college football every single week. It's a great time. Short Kings, where you at?
The guy that I'm telling I would go look for to see if I can make a push. Again, we're talking about third round pick,
I have an espresso maker in my home. Sorry.
Leave me alone. I'm in California.
Live near the beach.
What do you expect? The guy that I'm going to go get for a third is, again, we're talking about thirds. So it's a guy that you probably want as a flex play down the stretch that could probably give you that upside, somewhat stable production. And to me, if he's healthy, that is Curtis Samuel. He has been the epitome of that. I have him on my team in the Yacht Club. And he's only 27 years old. Again, he's a younger-ish wide receiver. 27 is like when wide receivers start to hit their prime. We saw him produce in Carolina. Like, he wasn't a bad receiver. The knock on him has always been injuries, right? Can he stay healthy? He missed games last season. He missed last week. And he's been wrestling through an injury. And so, to me, Curtis Samuel, he's been productive. When he's on the field, Sam Howell's looking his way. When he's healthy, starting in week 4, 14 points, 15 points, 12 points. He got injured in week 7 for 4 points and played through an injury in week 8 for 4 points. But you're seeing when he's on the field, he's getting targets. He's got 8 targets, 7 targets, 4 targets, 2 touchdowns on the season. He's going to give you what looks like stable production. Even battling through an injury, he gives you 4 points.
Oh, yeah. That was really nasally sounding, by the way.
Injury.
He's giving you 4 points, which isn't nice. But if you can get the steady, consistent 14, 15, 12, he's giving you above 10 points. That's what you want for a flex down the stretch if an injury pops up, right? And they have Sam Howell, who they're just letting just chucked the ball everywhere, left and right, throwing it all over the place, right? 300 yards here, 4 touchdowns, come back against the Eagles. Whatever the game script is, if they need to go win the game, they're not handing off the ball to go win the game. They're saying, we're going to see what we have in our young quarterback, go throw the ball. Curtis Samuel seems to be one of the guys that he's keying in on when he's healthy. So if I'm in a league, I'm going to see Curtis Samuel's probably in the depths of someone's bench. I don't know. Even having him on my team in Yacht Club, when I was in a pursuit for a championship, I wasn't starting Curtis Samuel. Like, he was on my bench. I didn't buy into the production yet. And who knows, especially with his recent injuries, if anyone's buying into the production that he has currently had. And I actually did do my research. I sent out 2/3 to the current owner.
Did you?
Or no, I have Curtis Samuel. I sent out Curtis Samuel and tried to get 2/3 back, and the guy didn't want to buy him. He's a contender. He didn't want to buy him. So 2/3 wouldn't do it. I asked him, okay, what can we do? And he said, I'd probably do 1/3. I didn't want to do it.
There you go.
So no, I didn't want to do it. I know it's hypocritical, but I'm like, I didn't want to do it because it was just 1/3.
No, I mean, that's like, but you value him more than that. I think that's
I do. I personally do. Yes.
It's great because players who are kind of in that in-between value, you brought it up a little bit with Amari Cooper. Like he's not worth, like, I wouldn't, if I had Amari Cooper, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, just a second. But if someone offered me like a second and a third, or a second and a player, a speculative player I liked, I'd be like, man, I should maybe, let me get out from him now, kind of thing. So it's a great example. I also have a wide receiver. I actually love your answer. I think Curtis Samuel's great. And I think the game script is the key, right? Like when you lose a Montez Sweat and you lose a Chase Young, you are not planning to play with a lead at all. You are just going to be playing.
And you want pieces of that offense, and you're not getting Terry McLaurin.
No, for sure. Dodson. And Sam Howell is in the top 5 in passing yards on the season. Like, there is plenty in that pie to go, split up and go around. So being in an offense with Jahan Dotson, being in an offense with Terry McLaurin, those are dynasty names people know and overvalue, perhaps, where Curtis Samuel is giving you very similar production at, he's the great value brand in that store. He is the Kirkland of Costco that we talked about earlier. It's just great value. My guy is kind of in a similar situation. He is the least valuable wide receiver 3 on a very, very good offense that is getting hot at the right time. But the players ahead of him are struggling with injury, and I think there is a bigger role that he can handle. He's shown that throughout his career. Tyler Boyd, I think, is a great piece for a championship run. Once again, Bengals already threw their bye, so you can throw him in your flex, set it and forget it. T. Higgins just popped up in practice with another hamstring injury. T. Higgins can't stay healthy to save his life, and Jamar Chase is nursing a back injury. I do think Chase plays, but whenever guys are banged up, and you know this, Dylan, there's going to be a few less plays drawn up for them. They're going to operate as a decoy if they're out there. We've seen T. Higgins do that multiple times. Tyler Boyd, he's always been freaking, like, just decent, man. Like, I don't say that like as a negativity. I just feel like he's always sure-handed. He always gets the job done, and he hasn't caught that many touchdowns on the year. And I do think there's going to be some positive regression because Joe Burrow is getting hot. There's plenty of touchdowns to go around. Listen, is this going to be a guy that like carries your roster, brings him up over the top? No. But in an emergency flex situation, he can give you 10 points a week easily. He is the guy that's going to give you 6 to 7 almost no matter what. And he has touchdown upside to give you a boost in a roster to get over a hump to finish the season. So, Dylan, any thoughts on Tyler Boyd before we conclude our FOMO buy low segment for teams that are not us chasing a championship?
No, I actually really like that. We're going to agree on this one because I think Tyler Boyd, with the injury to T. Higgins has a hamstring injury. I don't think he plays this week, and we know hamstrings and wide receivers, that could go all kinds of different ways. So if you can send a third and get a Tyler Boyd, if T. Higgins is actually out for not just this week, but if he's going to be week to week, you're looking at someone who can fill that T. Higgins role. And we've seen him even in the last 3 weeks. Last week, he had 7 points. The week before, 12 points and a touchdown, 13 points and a touchdown, 7 targets, 9 targets, 8 targets. Like, he's getting the targets. He's there in the offense. And that's being the third option, right, in the offense. Yeah. So I think if T. Higgins misses games, you were looking at Tyler Boyd, who can step into that role, and he's been a producer. So I actually really like that. I would go send a third. And even if it takes 2/3 to get him, go and get a Tyler Boyd because I think he'll be worth it down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. So, listen, that was did we cover 6 players? 7 players, because I did twice the amount of homework you did. Well, not twice on the second round. Yeah, no, exactly. Hey, Nerding Out has its has its advantages.
I went like
thank you
this to
so-
like fix your glasses like in Maki, but it
I've
totally
never had
looked like
glasses in my
I know,
life.
but it looked like I flipped off the camera. I was like, so I was not flipping off the camera. Those of you watching the YouTube, I was totally just.
You're such.
Yeah,
you're such a good young man. Good job. So hopefully you're in a position where you can chase a championship. If you're rebuilding like us, maybe those are some players you should consider selling anyway. If the price is right, maybe squeeze a little bit more value out of each and every one of them. But I want to hear about some Dynasty Exchange owners who climbed the mountain this season, because it will not be Dylan and it will not be myself. We're going to meditate on that and try to get some sleep sorrowfully for the rest of our nights. We will see you guys on Monday. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Dynasty Exchange.
Dynasty the king.